It was a Thursday morning like any other. The clouds hung low over the city, the sky a heavy gray that threatened rain but never quite delivered. Cars honked. Sidewalks bustled. And there, just outside a glass office building downtown, stood Daniel, clenching a brown paper bag with his lunch inside, adjusting his tie with slightly trembling fingers. Daniel was early. Too early. He liked it that way. Because every time he walked through those revolving doors he could feel it. The looks. The whispers. The weight of being different. Today was no different. As he stepped into the building, the front desk security guard, a tall, broad man named Mr. Harlan, barely lifted his eyes. "Can I help you?" The tone sharp. Defensive. Suspicious. Daniel smiled, speaking carefully with the slight West African lilt in his voice. "Good morning, sir. I'm here for my appointment with Mr. Reynolds on the 10th floor." Harlan's eyes narrowed. "Appointment? With Reynolds? You sure you're in the right building, buddy?" Behind Daniel, two sharply dressed employees in navy suits chuckled under their breath as they scanned their badges and walked past. "Maybe he's delivering food," one of them muttered loud enough for Daniel to hear. "Or looking for the cleaning office," the other snickered. Daniel felt the familiar flush rise in his chest. But he said nothing. He simply held out his ID and the neatly printed visitor pass he'd been sent. Harlan snatched it from him, inspecting it like a counterfeit bill. "Wait here," he grunted. The seconds stretched into minutes. Other visitors, pale, polished, breezed through without a second glance. But Daniel waited. And waited. Finally, Harlan returned with a fake, sheepish smile. "Guess you do have a meeting. Go ahead. Elevator's that way." He didn't even apologize. Daniel nodded politely, walking toward the elevators. But he could still feel the stairs burning into his back. Inside the conference room, Daniel sat quietly across from a panel of executives, men and women in crisp suits, all wearing the same polite, condescending smiles. They asked him questions. About markets, about growth, about investments. And every time he answered, clear, intelligent, precise, he saw it in their faces. Doubt. Dismissal. Disbelief. His accent, his skin, his gentle manner, they couldn't see past any of it. Not really. At one point, one of the executives, a man named Mr. Carver, even leaned back in his chair and chuckled. "Listen, Daniel," he said, steepling his fingers. "We appreciate your ambition. Really we do. But maybe you're biting off a little more than you can chew, huh?" The others laughed, a low ripple of amusement. Daniel smiled softly. He didn't argue. He didn't plead. He simply rose from his chair, adjusted his tie, and said, "Thank you for your time. I'll be in touch." And he left. Calm. Dignified. Even as their laughter echoed behind him. 2 weeks later. A different Thursday. Same heavy sky. This time Daniel didn't clutch a paper bag. He wasn't wearing a cheap tie. He wore a tailored suit that whispered money with every step. And this time, he wasn't coming for an interview. He was coming for the company. See, what the executives didn't know was that Daniel was the silent partner of a powerful investment firm, one that had been quietly buying up shares of their company for months. The firm had secured majority ownership. And today? Today was takeover day. As Daniel approached the building, Mr. Harlan, the security guard, spotted him again, and frowned. "Back again, huh? You need me to call upstairs?" Daniel smiled. This time it wasn't nervous. "No need," he said, handing over a shiny black keycard. "I own it now." For a moment Harlan just stared, mouth open. Daniel walked past him without another word. In the boardroom. The executives were seated and restless as Daniel enters. You could have heard a pin drop. Mr. Carver, the same man who had laughed at him, blinked rapidly. What's going on?" he stammered. Daniel placed a leather folder on the table. Inside. Legal documents. Ownership papers. Final contracts. He looked each of them dead in the eye. "Effective immediately," he said calmly. "I will be assuming the role of CEO. As per the terms outlined here, some of you will be offered severance packages. Others will be let go without ceremony." Mr. Carver's face turned a blotchy shade of red. "You can't be serious," he barked. Daniel tilted his head slightly. "Oh, I assure you, Mr. Carver, I am very serious." And just like that, the tables had turned. The man they mocked for his accent, the man they dismissed, had become their boss. But Daniel didn't stop there. Because for him it was never just about revenge. It was about reform. Systemic change. And what he did next would send shockwaves far beyond that glass building. Power had shifted. But Daniel knew, real change wasn't just about titles. It was about roots. It was about culture. The building still smelled the same, that cold, metallic tinge of air conditioning and ambition. But the air itself was about to change. Daniel didn't waste time. His first act as CEO? A complete audit of hiring practices. Within weeks, resumes that once landed in the trash because of complicated names or foreign degrees were now being called in first. Daniel set up a diversity task force, not just a token committee but a group with real power, real budgets. And then, he went further. He launched the Future Voices Scholarship Fund, aimed at giving underprivileged youth a direct pipeline into internships, mentorships, and full-time jobs. Billboards went up across the city. New leadership. New future. People noticed. Media outlets picked up the story. Daniel's face, once doubted, once dismissed, now beamed from business magazines and news sites. Late evening in Daniel's office, golden sunset light filtering through glass walls. Daniel sat back, sipping coffee, finally allowing himself a rare smile. He had done it. He had broken the cycle. But not everyone was smiling. From within the very walls he had reformed, old resentments festered. One of Daniel's own senior managers, a man named Todd Henley, a relic of the old regime, had been smiling to his face and plotting behind his back. Emails leaked. Memos sabotaged. Whispers among board members. Doubts planted. And worse, Todd had found an ally. A trusted advisor Daniel had personally mentored, Jillian Cross. Together they were building a case. A quiet, careful narrative that Daniel was incompetent. That the company's new radical policies were hurting the bottom line. Their goal? A boardroom coup. And Daniel's removal. We get 5 board votes. That's all we need. He won't see it coming. Todd whispered venomously to Jillian in one of their secret meetings. Are you sure this will work? He's smarter than they said. Jillian replied nervously, biting her lip. Doesn't matter. Deep down they'll always trust people like us more than someone like him. Always. Todd sneered. Meanwhile Daniel stood by the window of his office, watching the city lights blink on one by one, when the knock came. It was Monique, his chief of staff, one of the few he knew he could trust. She stepped inside, face pale. Daniel, you need to see this. She slid a thick envelope onto his desk. Inside were the emails, the meeting transcripts, the plan to vote him out. A betrayal. Not from strangers, but from those he'd lifted up. For a long moment Daniel just stood there, silent. Then he slowly, carefully closed the folder. They thought he would be blind. They thought he would break. They forgot who he was. Daniel didn't fight fire with fire. He fought it with truth. When it was time for the company-wide meeting with a packed auditorium, Daniel took the stage holding nothing but a single sheet of paper. He spoke not of revenge, but of vision, of trust, of the future they were all building, together. And then, calmly, without raising his voice, he exposed the betrayal. Not with anger. With evidence. Emails. Minutes. Audio recordings. Every lie laid bare. Gasps from the crowd filled the air. Todd's face turning red. Jillian shrinking into her seat. The board had no choice. Todd and Jillian were escorted out that day. But Daniel? He didn't just survive. He soared. Daniel knew he couldn't fix a broken system with broken methods. He knew the hardest part wasn't just changing minds. It was changing hearts. And that was a battle worth fighting. For the ones who came after him. For the young man standing outside some other glass door right now, brown paper bag in hand, wondering if he was enough. But there's still one more battle he has to fight. Against a system even bigger than the company he now owns. Victory can be sweet. But when the dust settles, sometimes you realize the mountain you climbed was just the beginning. It wasn't over yet. Daniel had a new goal. Expanding his company's projects into city contracts, public works, education programs, infrastructure. It wasn't just business. It was personal. It was about opening doors for the people no one else saw. Seated across from city officials. He pitched innovative projects. More jobs. More opportunities for marginalized communities. It should have been an easy yes. But the smiles were too tight. The promises too vague. Weeks passed. Calls went unanswered. Meetings rescheduled or canceled last minute. And then, Daniel learned the truth. The city had an unwritten rule. Contracts didn't go to new players. Especially not ones who didn't fit the mold. Backroom deals. Old money handshakes. A network built to exclude. Standing alone in his office late at night, rain hitting the windows, He stared at the rejection letters piling up. Each one a reminder that no matter how hard you worked, no matter how much you gave, some doors weren't locked. They were welded shut. Daniel had started out as a young man carrying groceries, getting laughed at. They laughed at him then. They tried to block him now. But Daniel had learned something through every bruise, every betrayal. You don't ask for a seat at a rigged table. You build your own. So he decided to host town halls and community meetings. He rallied the neighborhoods. He spoke to the forgotten, the overlooked. He built alliances outside the usual channels. Small business owners, local nonprofits, faith leaders. One by one they joined him. He launched a grassroots initiative, Bridge Forward, focusing on community-led development. When city officials refused him contracts, Daniel brought the contracts to the people. New housing projects, youth tech hubs, scholarship expansions, funded by partnerships he built himself. No more waiting. No more begging. The power shifted, again. Daniel didn't just open doors. He kicked down walls. And when the next city election came around, the people remembered. Those officials who turned him away? Voted out. New faces. New voices. Real change. He didn't win by playing their game. He changed the rules entirely. Not for revenge, but for justice. For hope. For the next Daniel who would walk these streets. And believe. Daniel's journey teaches us. Sometimes the system is too broken to fix from inside. Sometimes you have to build something better. Brick by brick. Voice by voice. You are more powerful than the doors that shut in your face. You are more worthy than the doubters ever imagined. Never doubt yourself for a moment. You will be victorious too. Now? For more inspiring content like this, take a microsecond to subscribe. Subscribe so you never miss out on our inspiring and life-changing stories.